The wait is almost over. Draft week is finally here. Welcome into this edition of Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you as we are breaking down the latest draft trade rumors for your Baltimore Ravens. Could they be wheeling and dealing when draft night rolls around on Thursday? I got two potential trade options to talk about here on today's show. Before we do, want to make sure you're subscribed to Ravens Rundown, as we are going to be breaking down all the picks as they happen in real time here on the channel, and we're closing in on 16.5 thousand subscribers on the channel, a little less than 500 away from reaching that next milestone for the latest happenings on your favorite team all week long, as we break down everything you need to know on your Baltimore Ravens, the picks, the analysis, the grades, everything in between. You got to subscribe to Ravens Rundown. Never miss a moment. Lock us in. Subscribe now for free. You'd be glad you did. Let's get started with today's show. Fansided's Lombardi Avenue, that would be Fansided's Green Bay Packers website, is proposing a potential draft trade to send Green Bay Packers defensive tackle Kenny Clark to Baltimore in exchange for the Ravens' first-round pick and a little more. We'll show you the trade idea here in just a second, but let's start off with the analysis from Lombardi Avenue of Fansided. Justin Madubuike had enough production last season to make up for the lack of numbers for a couple of guys, but the Ravens could benefit so much from having an all-around stud like Kenny Clark on their defensive front. And using the 30th pick in this year's draft on a player like Clark would be a much better investment for them than whatever player is going to be sitting on the board there in all likelihood. So this is the trade idea that they are proposing. The Ravens get Kenny Clark, and they give up their first-round pick at 30, in addition to a third-round pick in 2025 to get this deal done. Now, I'll say this. Nothing against Kenny Clark at all. He's a fine football player. He's had a very good career. But the Baltimore Ravens have more pressing needs than giving up a first-round pick on a veteran defensive lineman. Didn't you just spend $100 million on Justin Madubuike? I mean, did we just forget that this Ravens team has a glaring hole at the offensive tackle spot, that they're looking for another receiver to play alongside Zay Flowers here? I mean, let's take care of those things first before we shore up what's already a good unit on the defensive line. Again, Kenny Clark, fine football player, 3-time Pro Bowler, but I got to tell you this right now, he ain't cheap. Currently on a 4-year, $70 million deal. Where's that money come from? Where is this money to make this type of deal for Kenny Clark? It doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense for me. I understand he's probably better than most players that are going to be available at that 30th spot. But from a need standpoint, from a financial standpoint, this doesn't make sense. Clark's coming off maybe the best season of his career, 7.5 sacks. He was very good. And I look at him throughout his numbers with what he's been able to do. A guy that hasn't missed a ton of time, too. You look at his track record, and he has stayed consistently healthy throughout his career. He's been a consistently solid and good football player. This actually, for me, has nothing against Kenny Clark by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a knock on him at all, but this just isn't what's best for the Baltimore Ravens at this time. I like Kenny Clark. It's still a no from me. I'm not doing this deal. I want to hear from you guys, though. What do you think about potentially trading for Kenny Clark? Is this a deal the Ravens should do? Just go ahead and depart with that first-round pick and bring in a guy like Kenny Clark? Let us know what you think in our pinned comment today. Y for yes, N for no. Weigh in the comments section. Tell us what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time, the place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. Maybe you decide on a whim that you want to go to a Baltimore Orioles game or another sporting event, concert, theater production, comedy show, whatever it may be. Game Time is going to make it easy for you. Pick the event you want to go to. You choose the seat, see if you like that seat or not. Look for those flash deals. And then from there, you're checking out with Google Pay, Apple Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. And I'm going to sweeten the pot a little bit for you here, folks. We are offering $20 off your first purchase when you use the promo code CHATSPORTS at checkout. You heard that right. That's $20 off with the promo code ChatSports at checkout. Download Game Time today. Terms and conditions do apply. $20 off with promo code ChatSports at checkout. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. Game Time, proud partner of Ravens Rundown and Chat Sports. So another trade idea that's been proposed, this comes from ESPN's Bill Barnwell, who is suggesting that the Ravens could trade down from the 30th overall pick to the Chargers selection at 37. Here's more from Barnwell. The Chargers could take a wide receiver at number 5, but if they go for an offensive lineman or trade down and otherwise don't grab a wideout with their top selection, this would be a place to grab a wideout to play alongside Quentin Johnston. New Chargers general manager Joe Horowitz just came over from Baltimore, so he probably has Eric DeCosta's number. Baltimore already has a pair of fourth-rounders, but adding another would allow it to further replenish a roster that was hit hard by free agency or package a couple picks to try to move up on day 2. So what does that potential trade look like? Here's what we're seeing here. The Chargers get the 30th pick. The Ravens move down to 37. Now, 7 spots, not a ton, but the one, I think, distinction, if you will, is that you lose out on the opportunity of a fifth-year option for a player if you go from 30 to 37, as the fifth-year option is only available to first-round draft picks. You pick up the fourth-round pick at 105 by moving back 7 spots in this case. Now, I think trading down 7 spots and adding a fourth-round pick in the process, that's an idea I don't hate, especially if there isn't somebody you're in love with. Because here's the situation, okay? We've talked about this on the program within the last couple of days. There is a very realistic possibility that if you're the Baltimore Ravens, we have said that we want to see this team get one of those tackles, whether it's a guy like Guyton or Mims or Jordan Morgan. And you could live in a reality where all of them are gone by the time the Ravens pick at 30. And then you're saying to yourself, well, shit, what do we do now? Well, here are some potential players that would be available at 37 if you were to trade down. They include Xavier Worthy, wide receiver from the University of Texas. He could still be around if the Ravens were to trade down to that spot. You got Ennis Rakestraw Jr., the corner from Mizzou. If you remember, very early on in the draft process, there were some mocks that were projecting the Ravens taking him with their first-round pick at 30. So potential good value there for Rakestraw at 37. You could go inside linebacker, looking for a replacement for Patrick Queen. Go with a guy like Payton Wilson out of North Carolina State. Another receiver, if Worthy's gone, or if you like this guy better, McConkey, wide receiver from Georgia. I'm not a huge fan of McConkey, if I'm going to be honest with you. I understand he had a very good Senior Bowl week, but I didn't see the production in college, not to mention the lack of size and all that. I'm a little out on McConkey as far as that goes. And then one other possibility is you could go offensive tackle. There is one more name that's possible for Baltimore, and that is Kingsley Suamatai, the offensive tackle from BYU. That could be an option that they ultimately go with if you still want to get your offensive tackle. He's not what Jordan Morgan is, or Mims, or Guyton. He's not what those guys are, but he's the best of that next tier, and you could still take care of position of need there. So, what do you guys think? Now you know the scenario. Should the Ravens trade down from 30? If one of those offensive tackles are gone, I'm saying trade down. If you have an opportunity, if one of those offensive tackles are still there, then I would go ahead and take one of those offensive tackles. What do you guys think? Type T for trade, type P for pass. What should the Ravens do at 30 overall? Weigh in the comment section. Let us know what you think. An exciting week ahead here on Ravens Rundown as we are getting you set with everything you need to know leading up to the draft, and we'll break down the picks as they happen in real time as well. So you got to make sure you're subscribed. That way you stay up to date, never miss a moment. Lock us in for the latest happenings on your Baltimore Ravens all week long. Folks, I'm excited. I know you are too. Subscribe now. We'll see you next time here on Ravens Rundown.